Hello and welcome to Quiz Class. I'm your host, Ellen, and today we have 100 questions on general knowledge. Let's take a look at our Quiz Class awards. And here they are. Let us know how you rank in the comments at the end, along with the answer to the bonus question. And let's begin. In what country was the Bandung Conference of 1955 held? Indonesia, India, or Egypt? Indonesia. In what language was The Little Prince originally written? French, English, or Spanish? French. Which Japanese author gained international fame in the 1960s for The Temple of the Golden Pavilion? Haruki Murakami, Yukio Mishima, or Kenzaburo Oe? Yukio Mishima. In what year was DNA's double helix structure discovered? 1945, 1953, or 1962? (1953). Which breed of dog was the most popular for police work in Europe in the 1950s? German Shepherd, Doberman, or Rottweiler? German Shepherd. What is the name of the tennis legend who won a calendar Grand Slam in 1962 and again in 1969? Bjorn Borg, Rod Laver, or Arthur Ashe? Rod Laver. Which city hosted the first Paralympic Games? London, Rome, or Tokyo? Rome. In George Orwell's 1984, what is the name of the torture room in the Ministry of Love? Chamber X, Room 9, or Room 101? Room 101. What play did Julie Andrews first appear in on Broadway? The Boyfriend, My Fair Lady, or Camelot? The Boyfriend. Who starred as the lead in the 1962 movie Lawrence of Arabia? Richard Burton, Peter O'Toole, or Charlton Heston? Peter O'Toole. Which breakfast cereal launched in 1964 and was originally shaped like little stars? Captain Crunch, Lucky Charms, or Cheerios? Lucky Charms. Which insecticide was popularly used in mid-20th century agriculture before it was banned? Agent Orange, Roundup, or DDT? DDT. What was the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision about? Abortion rights, equal pay, or school prayer? Abortion rights. Who founded the Ms. magazine in 1971? Betty Friedan, Shirley Chisholm, or Gloria Steinem? Gloria Steinem. What was the standard price of a U.S. postage stamp in 1955? 5 cents, 3 cents, or 10 cents? $0.03. What material were early Barbie dolls made from? Rubber, porcelain, or vinyl? Vinyl. What was the name of the purple McDonaldland character that was introduced in the 1970s? Grimace, Mayor McCheese, or Hamburglar? Grimace. Which radio detective always signed off with "Yours truly"? Sam Spade, Boston Blackie, or Johnny Dollar? Johnny Dollar. Which children's show's host famously wore sweaters knitted by his mother? Captain Kangaroo, Fred Rogers, or Bozo the Clown? Fred Rogers. Which actor famously refused an Oscar in 1973? Paul Newman, Marlon Brando, or Al Pacino? Marlon Brando. Which 1960s magazine featured spy versus spy cartoons? Punch, Cracked, or Mad Magazine? Mad Magazine. Which soft drink once contained lithium citrate as a mood-stabilizing ingredient? Sprite, RC Cola, or 7-Up? Seven Up. Which baseball player was nicknamed the Yankee Clipper? Joe DiMaggio, Mickey Mantle, or Lou Gehrig? Joe DiMaggio. In what car model did Elvis Presley pose in for a 1956 ad? Chevrolet Bel Air, Ford Fairlane, or Cadillac Eldorado? Cadillac Eldorado. Before GPS, what in-car gadget showed scrolling paper maps as you drove? Scoutmate Navigator, AutoNav Display, or Iter Avto? Iter Avto. Who was the first Black woman to be elected to the U.S. Congress back in 1968? Shirley Chisholm, Barbara Jordan, or Rosa Parks? Shirley Chisholm. Route 66 originally ran from Chicago to which West Coast city? San Francisco, San Diego, or Santa Monica? Santa Monica. What type of glassware became popular in homes during the 1940s for its heat-proof cooking ability? Pyrex, Tupperware, or Corelle? Pyrex. Which female singer had a hit with It's My Party in 1963? Dusty Springfield, Petula Clark, or Leslie Gore? Leslie Gore. Which type of hat was common in men's fashion in the 1940s and 1950s? Panama, fedora, or bowler? Fedora. Which household brand introduced the slogan, "You're soaking in it"? Dove, Palmolive, or Tide? Palmolive. In what year did the US first introduce the zip code system? 1957, 1971, or 1963? 1963. What was the name of the first ever non-stick frying pan that was introduced in 1954? Teflon pan, cast iron skillet, or copper chef? Teflon pan. What major environmental disaster occurred in 1986 at a nuclear power plant? Fukushima disaster, wind scale fire, or the Chernobyl disaster? The Chernobyl disaster. Which 1980s movement in Poland was led by Lech Walesa and challenged communist rule? Solidarity, Velvet Revolution, or Orange Revolution? Solidarity. What was the name of the shoe brand that introduced the jelly shoe in early 1980s? Crocs, Payless, or Grandin? Grandin. Which singer was known as the Singin' Rage in the 1950s? Teresa Brewer, Patti Page, or Rosemary Clooney? Patti Page. Which instrument was used to create the spooky sound effect in many 1950s movies? Harpsichord, theremin, or synthesizer? Theremin. Which 1950s movie was responsible for making 3D glasses popular in theaters? Sunset Boulevard, House of Wax, or The Tingler? House of Wax. Which brand of shoes were known for their crepe soles and desert boot style in the 1950s? Keds, Clarks, or Hush Puppies? Clarks. Question 41. Which board game was introduced in 1965 and featured a pop-o-matic bubble? Trouble, Sorry, or Operation? Trouble. What cleaning device used a disposable waxy cloth and was popular before Swiffers existed? Dust mop, magic eraser, or sponge mop? Dust mop. Which accessory did many drivers attach to their steering wheels to help with one-handed driving? Cruise control button, single extender, or suicide knob? Suicide knob. What was the name of the 1930s movie program that gave away glassware and dishes with your ticket? Bargain Tuesday, Dish Night, or Ladies Matinee? Dish Night. What was the name of the handheld viewer that displayed 3D images on a circular reel? Slide Scope, View, or Viewmaster? Viewmaster. Which store was famous for its Christmas window displays in New York City? Macy's, Woolworths, or JCPenney? Macy's. Which American city hosted the Democratic National Convention of 1968? San Francisco, New York City, or Chicago? Chicago. Which French leader founded the Fifth Republic in 1958? Georges Pompidou, François Mitterrand, or Charles de Gaulle? Charles de Gaulle. What global music event was held in London and Philadelphia in 1985 to raise funds for Africa? Live Aid, Farm Aid, or We Are the World? Live Aid. Which Indian leader promoted nonviolence and civil disobedience against British rule? Jawaharlal Nehru, Mahatma Gandhi, or Subhas Chandra Bose? Mahatma Gandhi. What was the first Concorde flight route? Paris to Rome, New York to Tokyo, or London to Bahrain? London to Bahrain. At which studio did the Beatles record many of their early hits? Sun Studios, Abbey Road Studios, or Island Records Studio? Abbey Road Studios. Which British king abdicated the throne in 1936? George VI, George V, or Edward VIII? Edward VIII. Which Italian company became famous for their scooters post-World War II? Vespa, Fiat, or Lambretta? Vespa. Which invention by Swiss engineer Georges de Mestral was inspired by burrs? Zippers, Velcro, or elastic bands? Velcro. Which UK firm produced the popular Mini car in 1959? Jaguar, Triumph, or British Motor Corporation? British Motor Corporation. Which country used the slogan, "Keep calm and carry on," during World War II? Australia, the United Kingdom, or Canada? The United Kingdom. Which Canadian TV show taught kids French and English in the 1970s? Télé Française, Chez Hélène, or Parlez-moi? Chez Hélène. What pet food brand had a singing dog jingle in 1960s US ads? Alpo, Purina, or Kennel Ration? Kennel Ration. Which British candy bar advertised itself as full of Eastern promise? Fry's Turkish Delight, Yorkie, or Wispa? Fry's Turkish Delight. Which US shampoo brand was advertised with green bubbles in the 1970s? Herbal Essences, Prel, or Breck? Herbal Essences. Which UK brand made the Real McCoy potato crisps in the 1980s? KP Snacks, Smith's, or Golden Wonder? KP Snacks. What Canadian store used the jingle, "Where the lowest price is the law"? Canadian Tire, Zellers, or The Bay? Zellers. Which old US diet trend relied heavily on grapefruit? Slimming diet, fiber craze, or Hollywood diet? Hollywood diet. Which fast food chain opened its first Canadian location in Richmond, British Columbia in 1967? McDonald's, Burger King, or KFC? McDonald's. Which US state was the first to adopt no-fault divorce laws in 1969? New York, Texas, or California? California. Which American mountain erupted in 1980 and became a major volcanic event in US history? Mount St. Helens, Mount Rainier, or Mount Shasta? Mount St. Helens. Which Canadian athlete's 1980 Marathon of Hope aimed to raise funds for cancer research? Rick Hansen, Steve Fogno, or Terry Fox? Terry Fox. When did Canada celebrate its 100th anniversary as a nation? 1973, 1954, or 1967? In 1967. In 1988, which athlete was stripped of his Olympic gold medal after being tested positive for steroids? Donovan Bailey, Ben Johnson, or Carl Lewis? Ben Johnson. Which US landmark was completed in 1941? Mount Rushmore, the Lincoln Memorial, or the Golden Gate Bridge? Mount Rushmore. In 1983, the first mobile phones were launched. What was the nickname of the original Motorola model? The Pebble, the Cube, or the Brick? The Brick. What type of film did Kodak Instamatic cameras use in the 60s and 70s? 35 millimeter, 110 film, or 126 cartridge film? (126 cartridge film). Which deodorant was originally sold as a cream in a jar before stick deodorants became popular? Ban, Mum, or Menon? Mum. Which common 1950s toothpaste brand advertised with a cartoon beaver? Ipana, Crest, or Colgate? Ipana. What was the name of the first space station launched by the United States in 1973? Apollo, Skylab, or Mir? Skylab. Which space shuttle exploded in 1986 and caused the deaths of all 7 crew members? Columbia, Discovery, or Challenger? Challenger. Which U.S. Secretary of State proposed the European Recovery Program in 1947? Dean Ashton, George C. Marshall, or Henry A. Wallace? George C. Marshall. Which blind pianist and singer combined gospel, jazz, and R&B to create soulful music in the 1950s? Ray Charles, Fats Domino, or Nat King Cole? Ray Charles. What was the name of the first chancellor of West Germany who was elected in 1949? Willy Brandt, Ludwig Erhard, or Konrad Adenauer? Konrad Adenauer. Which New Deal agency built dams and brought electricity to the rural South in the 1930s? Federal Reserve, Civil Aeronautics Board, or the Tennessee Valley Authority? Tennessee Valley Authority. Which U.S. river was redirected in the 1930s due to the construction of the Hoover Dam? The Colorado River, Mississippi River, or Columbia River? The Colorado River. Which large inland sea has been shrinking since the 1960s due to Soviet irrigation projects? Caspian Sea, Aral Sea, or Black Sea? The Aral Sea. Which mountain range forms a natural border between Europe and Asia? The Ural Mountains, the Carpathians, or the Alps? The Ural Mountains. Which vitamin was discovered in the 1930s and was linked to preventing pellagra? Riboflavin, vitamin B1, or vitamin B3? Vitamin B3. Which language did Anne Frank originally write her diary in? French, Yiddish, or Dutch? Dutch. Which author was awarded the Nobel Prize in 1958 but was forced by their government to decline it? Alexander Solzhenitsyn, Boris Pasternak, or Mikhail Bulgakov? Boris Pasternak. What was the main function of a slide rule that was widely used before the 1970s? Sending radio signals, performing math calculations, or drawing straight lines? Performing math calculations. What metal was commonly used in wartime pennies during 1943 in the US? Zinc, steel, or copper? Steel. Question 90. Which powdered drink mix became popular in the 1950s for being used by astronauts? Tang, Kool-Aid, or Nesquik? Tang. Which tree is known for its high-quality rubber production and was key in World War II? Eucalyptus, acacia, or Hevea brasiliensis? Hevea brasiliensis. Which fashion icon of the 1930s was known for her elegant style and influence on evening wear? Wallis Simpson, Audrey Hepburn, or Greta Garbo? Greta Garbo. Which European city hosted the first World's Fair after World War II? Berlin, Paris, or Brussels? Brussels. Which 1920s trial gained international attention and sparked the debate of creationism versus evolution? Scopes monkey trial, Nuremberg trials, or Lindbergh trial? Scopes monkey trial. Which dance craze became popular thanks to Chubby Checker? The twist, the hustle, or the jerk? The twist. What was Polaroid's first instant camera called? Flash cam, land camera, or Quick Pix 50? Land camera. Which popular soft drink was originally marketed as a brain tonic? Pepsi, Dr. Pepper, or Coca-Cola? Coca-Cola. Which now popular candy was originally called chicken feed? Bit of honey, candy corn, or milk duds? Candy corn. Which 1940s singer became popularly known as the Velvet Fog? Bing Crosby, Perry Como, or Mel Torme? Mel Torme. Which old toy allowed you to create spiral designs using plastic gears and pens? Light Bright, Etch-a-Sketch, or Spirograph? Spirograph. And our bonus question, the original name of the band The Rolling Stones was what? Let us know the answer in the comments, as well as how you did with our quiz class Einstein rewards. We'd love to hear it. Thanks for playing this quiz. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.